Is the Shane Beamer hot seat already cooling? Locked on Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome in. I am Chris Marler. Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. It's great to have you along. I am very excited for today's show for a number of reasons. We're going to get into all of them. As you can tell, I got a different background. You are looking live in Atlanta. I'm over here at my girlfriend's place recording, so I apologize for the background. There's no South Carolina stuff. There's nothing else. There's no sports-related stuff, whatever. But you know what we do have? Flawless working internet, and I am fired up about that. So goodbye, Spectrum. We are over here in Atlanta. We have Google Fiber. I love to see it. Back to what we were saying with the show. I am Chris Marler. Thank you for making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We are a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at Game Time. I've talked about them a ton, guys. Go download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all one word, all capital letters, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Let's jump into the show. And like I said, I'm fired up for a number of reasons. And this is not the best analogy for our first subject. We got some great topics we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about fall camp. We're going to do a little SEC Whiparound. It's Whiparound Wednesday. I'm going to try to make that a thing. Maybe not. Now that I say whip around, I don't really love it. But we're going to talk about that. I'm going to go on a rant and rave about some stuff that's happening on social media today about fall weddings in regards to college football. We're going to have a fun show, but we're going to start with Shane Beamer and the hot seat that seems to be cooling already. Okay, so we've talked about this a little bit, and I've made mention. I was like, Shane Beamer's on the hot seat, and there have been some comments in the YouTube department that people got really upset about that. And the reason why is because I think the overwhelming idea from that particular group of people was that he shouldn't be on the hot seat. I know there was one person that went on and on and on about how the fact that he beat Clemson 2 years ago, that was like a 40-game winning streak in fake Death Valley, and he was able to go in there and get a win. He shouldn't be on the hot seat at all. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Like, I like Shane Beamer. He's only in year 4. You also have to think about what he inherited and what he's done. And the other part, too, is that like what he's done. And now you're going into a whole new era of college football that none of us have seen. None of us have seen. We have never seen a 16-team like Southeastern Conference. We've never seen a 12-team playoff. They're going to be in 14 teams next year. But we've never seen any of this unfold. I use the example of this, though, when I come to the Shane Beamer hot seat thing. I don't know if you guys have noticed this in other episodes that we've done. I'm talking my hands a lot already. Other episodes that we've done, you can see my eyes dart up into the corner repeatedly. And it's not just because I have horrible, very diagnosed ADD. It's because every time I'm recording at home, Spectrum has me just on the edge of my seat worried that the internet's going to go out any minute. I'm constantly looking up here, and it's hard for me to focus. You might hear me say like way more than I usually do, or way more than I should for sure, because I'm a little bit preoccupied and worried about whatever's going on. I have so much carefree energy today because that's not going to happen. Imagine having that kind of energy going into a season that I think Shane Beamer finally has. And I understand it's a kind of a stupid, maybe a little bit selfish analogy because the internet is obviously not as important as a job that Shane Beamer has. But I bring it up because of this. All offseason, we've heard from national media, people outside of Columbia, right? Which it cracks me up that's, like you want to weigh in on something you probably don't know as much about. Yeah, Shane Beamer's on the hot seat. They went 5-7 last year. They were supposed to go 7-5. Think about how dumb that sounds, first off. Like, nobody was expecting a 9-win season out of Carolina a year ago. Maybe some people that have unrealistic expectations. But, realistically, you're off by 2 wins. They should have made a bowl game. I would have liked to see that. But, like, going 5-7 versus 7-5, and all of a sudden the national media saying, "Well, they're on the hot seat," is so dumb. And if you talk to anybody close to around Columbia or the program or anybody that is in the know about it, that's not been the case. A lot of people think that unless he somehow goes 4-8 this year, and this team goes 4-8 and underwhelms and underperforms so badly and drastically, that's the only way he would be on the hot seat. But if you're Shane Beamer, he is not immune to hearing what the media says. That's not a guy that, listen, I'm not saying this in a negative way to Shane Beamer, not a guy that necessarily blocks out the noise as much as a lot of other coaches. I think Shane Beamer is in tune with what's being said in the media at times. I think he is a little bit, maybe sometimes a little bit preoccupied with the perception that he thinks he has to have, or that others have of him, and the image that he has to put out, or attitude that he has to put out, or anything like that, especially in press conferences. And that's fine. He's learning to do this as a head coach, as a first-time head coach. But going into the season, now that we get closer and closer, it feels like there's this momentum that's picking up steam. And it's not that South Carolina is going to go win the SEC, or that South Carolina is going to necessarily compete for a playoff spot or set the world on fire or anything like that. And it doesn't need to be right now. But the idea that they were going to go 4-8, and be terrible, and Beamer's on the hot seat, all of that is slowly turning into, that's probably a bowl eligible team. I don't think Beamer's going to be on the hot seat. And I'll tell you the best proof of the whole thing. I was reading an article today by our good friend Brad Crawford, who I feel like I quote at least once a show at this point. That man puts out so much work on 247. I messaged him today. I was like, man, you're killing it. I feel like every single time I'm doing a show, whether it's here or on our other podcasts or other stuff I do with work, I feel like I'm referencing something he's done every day. And we're going to do it a lot on today's episode. But 247 Sports put out an article, and it's the buyouts for college football coaches on varying hot seats. Okay. So I'm going to go through what they have listed. The picture in the article is Billy Napier. I think we could all agree that's probably one of the main ones. Why is this important? Because I have long said, in the SEC especially, money's not real. Money's not real. There's not a better example of that, really, maybe, than the Jimbo Fisher thing. Obviously, everyone thinks it's like, oh yeah, he got $76.8 million in his buyout. He got paid over $120 million total. Because let's remember that they were paying him a guaranteed contract, and they extended him in 2021, because even though they went 8-4 and then lied about going to the bowl game because of COVID, which is a real thing, I have very good sources on that, but they beat Bama in October, so it was like, oh yeah, we're going to extend them for sure. Money's not real in the SEC. If you want to buy out a coach, you've seen it at Auburn, you've seen it at A&M, they will buy out a coach. Hell, at Auburn, they'll make up a fake affair. Also very untrue. That was not a real thing that happened. I mean, that's just the boosters taking over. But I say all that to say, in this day and age, all joking aside, in this economy, you have to be not frugal with your money, but you have to be a little bit more stringent with it. And money is a little bit more real, because you can't just keep shelling out tens of millions of dollars for buyouts in this day and age, when you're also having to come up with tens of millions of dollars for having NIL stuff. So we have a very odd text from my mother here. Okay. Now, back to what I'm saying. The buyouts you have in place, like I've said, you've had Auburn that has put out a bunch of money, and they seem to do it. There's been multiple guys that have been fired there in less than 3 to 4 years. Happened with Chiswick after winning a national championship. Happened with Harsin before he was even out of year 2. That wasn't a good fit. But specifically with South Carolina, you saw it last with Will Muschamp. And Will Muschamp's buyout was $12.9 million. That man made almost $30 million in his career by being told not to coach. 17 for Florida and 13 at South Carolina. That aside, that should finally be done being paid at the end of this December in 2024. Okay? So keep that in mind when I say this. Now, back to the 24/7 hot seat buyouts they have listed here. Okay, Sam Pittman, $15 million is what it would cost for Sam Pittman. Dave Aranda from Baylor, $16 million. Guy from BYU, Kalani Sitake, $9 million. Whatever. No one cares about that. Vanderbilt not listed for Clark Lee. Billy Napier, $25.5 million. He might not be on the hot seat as much as people think, because $25.5 million is a lot. Ryan Day, $36.5 million. Mario Cristobal, Miami, $55 million. Now, they also reference in this article the hot seat rankings that CBS Sports came out with earlier. Obviously, 247 CBS, like sister companies or under the same umbrella, whatever. On their hot seat rankings, Shane Beamer is not even listed. And I say this because he's under Getting Warmer, I believe. No, he's not even under Getting Warmer. I say this for a number of reasons. The idea that Shane Beamer should be fired if they underperform this year, especially with the schedule that they have, is a little bit ludicrous. It's a little bit stupid, right? And I think that logical fans, like the one that was in the comments on YouTube, and I'm sorry I forgot the name and I should have written it down, but yeah, like he did just beat Clemson a couple years ago. Let's again not forget what what shape this program was in when he took it over. And what he's done from a recruiting standpoint has been, outside of those early 2010s, the best it's been at Carolina you could argue ever. I mean, like, he's done a really, really good job, and he's getting stuff out of a national footprint too, right? Like these 5 stars that are coming from not South Carolina. So I think when you look at the actual logistics of this and the facts that would surround it, if you had to actually buy it out, I'm not great with money. Okay, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not great with money at all. I don't have to be in charge of financial planning for a university like this. And as much as I even said, like, in the SEC, money's not real. If Beamer goes 3-9 or 2-10 or something stupid like that, you can absolutely believe that the boosters will do whatever they need to do to get him out. And I think if they did that, Beamer himself would probably be like, yeah, it's probably time for me to go, right? But that being said, in this day and age of football, especially with NIL and especially with this, like, it is a never-ending arms race in the SEC, especially with facility upgrades. And Carolina's ahead of the curve on that. Let's be very clear. But with facility upgrades and everything that's involved in recruiting budget, and then NIL budget when you get them on campus. And here's a thing that is also at I wouldn't say disadvantage for South Carolina. It's just different than a lot of other places. At South Carolina, your NIL budget isn't just used for football. At Ohio State, 1,000% it is. You think Ohio State gives a blank about baseball? Their men's basketball program has gone to also 4-letter words, gone to crap. They don't have their women's basketball team is not bad. I think they beat Iowa last year, but they're not pouring money into that. At South Carolina, you've got the best women's basketball program in the country. You could argue the best program at any sport in the country for women's basketball. Your men's basketball team, now that you got a new coach that's coming there, has been tremendous. And you see the work they've put in the portal this offseason. So you got to put NIL money there. In baseball, you just brought in you brought in the best available head coach that you could find in the country with Paul Merritt. I can't say his last name. I've got to get better at names, guys. Got to get better at names and financial planning. But Paul Maneri, I don't know why I always want to put an extra R in there, but you're going to have NIL money for that. And keeping guys like Ethan Petrie and in the outfield, not having him leave early and all that, or leave to go somewhere else. Like you have to have this NIL money that's allotted for not just football. So first segment's already gone on too long. I do it all the time. But I guess in summation, what I'm saying is this. The comfort that you have to have if you're Shane Beamer going into the season and realizing, that seat is cooled a little bit. And I think he probably knew better than most of us and everyone that, I don't think I'm as the seat's as hot as people from national media want to make it. But after a while, that's got to be frustrating to hear, that is something you could be facing and your job might be in the line. You better do this. And that puts pressure on anything, right? Being able to take a breath, not have this kind of stress being put on you. I mean, think about Billy Napier right now. Billy Napier took over an even worse situation than Shane Beamer. And he is in a job where everyone in the country thinks he's going to get fired because everyone in the country thinks that schedule is way too difficult and he's not going to succeed. And if he doesn't, they'll probably fire him. Think about the stress that he has going into a season where he's got 8 teams on his schedule that are in the preseason top 25 that he's got to go play out of 12 games. Oh, and by the way, if you don't get to a bowl game, you're going to be fired. I love the fact that Beamer has gotten to a situation where he's got that hot seat has cooled already before a single game is played. Now he can go into the season Let the chips fall where they may, and let's go. So that is my Shane Beamer hot seat cooling take. Again, way too long, but you guys, if there's anything you've already known about me, it's the internet spotty, and I'm very long-winded. So make sure you stick around for our next portion of the show. We're going to talk about fall camp. We're going to do that Wednesday Whiparound. We got to find a better name for it. From around the SEC, get you updated on some other things happening in fall camp from around the league as well. Before we do, I want to talk to you about our friends at Game Time and the Game Time app. I told you this before when we started the show. I love the Game Time app. It is one of the only apps where you get some of the features, unique features to the app that you don't get anywhere else. All-in pricing is one of them. Like you get priority to last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off your ticket prices from buying last minute to sports, concerts, comedy, theater. They have flash deals. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Speaking of the seats, you can get zone deals where you can just choose a section of a stadium and let Game Time choose the seats for you. That'll be the cheapest. And then you have my favorite thing on here, which is all-in pricing. Between that and the seat views, where you can see exactly where your seats are before you go into a game. If you're in South Carolina and you're going to Willie B, maybe you can figure out if you're going to be on the shaded side or not, because that is a real struggle for a lot of us in September and October even. So you get to have that. And you also get the all-in pricing, which is the feature that gives you the total up front. Said it 1,000 times. The worst thing about ordering on DoorDash, Uber Eats, Ticketmaster especially, is all the extra fees. Something that costs $50 ends up costing $70. You do not get that surprise. That's usually a bad surprise when you use the Game Time app. You get the all-in pricing up front. So I'm telling you this again. Make sure you download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Can't catch a Clemson grad doing that. You get $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We'll be right back with Locked On Gamecocks. All right, welcome back in the second portion of the show. Hopefully Zach Blackerby, my boss and host of Locked On Auburn, is not watching this because we went about double the time we were supposed to in that first segment. But I appreciate you guys joining us along. This will be a quick one, man. We're going to talk about fall camp and stuff that's emerging, and just some things that have been said around camp. Now you get a little bit of not a break, but things have winded down because you're settled into what it's going to look like for the practice schedule in the preseason. Before we do, I want to say once again, thank you for making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen every day. But for your second listen, make sure you enjoy Locked On College Football Podcast. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussion on the upcoming season and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, the new college football expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, let's get into fall camp and an SEC whiparound. Not a ton from fall camp. I want to focus on three things that I've read from your post-scrimmage, first scrimmage of the year, and then also the stuff that happened this weekend. It was, like I said in a previous episode, very busy weekend. Very busy weekend from the this past Saturday and Sunday in Columbia. Side note on this, real quick. If you didn't hear the pod or obviously you didn't see it because I didn't post it to YouTube. That's how bad the internet was and Spectrum, all that kind of stuff. I know I get it. No one's more bothered and frustrated by it than me. But the episode, we put up an episode on Monday. It's on Spotify and Apple and wherever else you get your podcast in audio form. It's just not up for video form on YouTube. So you can make sure you listen to that. It was a fun episode. We just recapped, like I said, a very busy weekend. The things that stood out to me the most after hearing about what's going on in early practices from the start of this week, as well as a recap from the weekend, I feel like Vakari Swain is starting to at least make a little bit of distance for himself at the other cornerback position. The word that we keep using with him and keep hearing with him, playmaker. Now, you need to find a way at that position. I think the two most important things, you don't want to get greedy, right? You don't need to be jumping routes, and especially in this stage of football, and especially with some of the route concepts and route trees you're going to be going up against with Mizzou and also with, I think, with Bama and Kalen DeBoer, and then Ole Miss, and some of that kind of stuff. You don't need to be making young mistakes where you're jumping a route ends up being a double move and you're giving up, 40, 50, 60-yard touchdown. But by all means, he has been a playmaker so far, not just in spring ball, but obviously also in fall camp, which you love to see. And I think either way, if he gets to start game one against ODU, great. But you are adding quality depth there because you have some young guys, but they seem to be coming along nicely from everything that you've read. The other thing is this. The episode on Monday, the lead topic was, is there a quarterback controversy already? Because you kept hearing all over on social media, Robbie Ashford flashed. Robbie Ashford flashed. That doesn't mean anything that Lenore Sellers didn't play well. And Shane Beamer talked about that at length, right? That doesn't mean just because one player played well, the other player didn't play well. But I do think it speaks volumes about the depth that you're adding at quarterback. And I think this QB room is going to be a lot better than people think. And it's not just going to be top heavy or with what some people think is just going to be, whatever. Lenore Sellers will be, we'll see. Prize Picks came out with their SEC quarterback passing props. Lenore Sellers isn't even listed. Fly under the radar as long as you can, and then pop when the time is right. I can't wait to see it for Lenore Sellers. But I think that Robbie Ashford, a guy that has started in the SEC and played well at times. I brought it up on the Monday show. There are people around Auburn who think that he's an NFL talent. He is an elite college athlete. I will say that. It's a two-way player that came out of high school. He is a very, very good athlete. Kind of surprised he hasn't tried to talk about playing baseball at all because he's not going to necessarily be QB1. But one of the things that was also mentioned was when Robbie Ashford talked to reporters, he made mention that Dowell Loggins has not told him who will start game one against ODU. I still think this is more iron sharpening iron. You're just trying to get as much competition and good reps as possible from both QBs, right? Because it is going to be one of these two guys, and you're going to see both of them. And again, I just get so excited thinking about all three of them somehow being involved, or both of them getting involved, as well as Rocket Sanders in the fourth quarter late when you're trying to lean on people, because those are big bodies that are going to be able to punish people late in games when they're tired and the hands are on the hips and you got to pull in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? So I don't think it necessarily means anything, but it's another comment that was made in regard to the quarterback situation. QB news is always going to be big, so we'll always talk about it. There you go. The other thing is this. Nick Harbor, one of the comments that was made, I believe it was on 247, it just kind of stood out to me. I don't think it necessarily means anything, but he's coming along, right? But I think his progression at the receiver position is not going to be as fast as especially as fast as I thought it would be. He's a freak athlete. One of the quotes that was said, verbatim, was, catching the football is not it doesn't come as easy to him as it does other people. I mean, listen, there's still people that think that he's destined, if he wants to go to the NFL or go to the next level or be the best version and player he can be in this sport. A lot of people think his best position is rushing off the edge. I don't know. I don't know of any edge rushers that are running, 10-200s. But maybe it is. I don't know. But they have said repeatedly he is putting in the work. He's coming along nicely. It's just a situation where it's like, dude, listen, you didn't have spring practice, right? And everyone else did. I made it a point on one of the earlier episodes. Sorry, this beard is itchy. I made it a point earlier in one of the other episodes this offseason is you had every single freshman, all but three freshmen from last year's recruiting class in the 2024 cycle were on campus and went through spring practice, all but three. And, Nick Harbor didn't. And you've got multiple freshman receivers that are going to try and vie for playing time. So, what do you do? You're a little bit behind. So he's a good enough athlete to make up for it. He is not going to be off the field. I do not think you're going to see a situation at all like you did last year where it's like, oh, now you're at A&M and, oh, my God, look, it's Nick Harbor, the guy that we've been talking about all offseason. He's finally getting targets. I don't think it's going to be like that. It does feel like it's not going to be as much of a he's going to be the focus of the offense by any means, at least to start the year. So that's all I have to report on that. Other stuff, just like I said, kind of whipping around the SEC. One of the things that came out as well in the preseason, we had our first bowl projections that were released, again by our buddy Brad Crawford over there, 247. And South Carolina was projected to go to the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa. I believe it's played indoors, I want to say. It might be outdoors. They played it before when it was like the Bad Boy Mowers Bowl or whatever in Tampa Bay's stadium. But I think that might have been even when they were the Devil Rays. So it might have been a minute. I'm aging myself. But projected to go to the Gasparilla Bowl against SMU from the ACC. A little bit shocked by that. I think SMU is going to be a lot better than people think. I think SMU is going to end up in the top 25 and take advantage of a pretty bad ACC. Now, everything else, whipping around the SEC and also just the teams on Carolina's schedule. First around the SEC, you have rumors coming out of Norman that at OU that the quarterback situation with Jackson Arnold might not be as good as we thought. There's already a huge overreaction happening from their fan base about getting in a backup quarterback and him potentially vying for playing time because it happened in the spring and they had not really fixed it yet. But the turnover situation that seems to be plaguing Jackson Arnold has continued to exist in fall camp. So might have some quarterback issues, quarterback controversy over there in Norman. Texas, who you don't play this year, but is in the SEC obviously now and has a lot of people think is just going to be an automatic slotted playoff team. Horrible rash of injuries. You had their top two running backs, including CJ Baxter, both tear or have season-ending injuries. I think one was an ACL or LCL, PCL or something like that. A lot of CLs. Okay. And then the other one was an Achilles, and both will be out for the entire season. You are very, very thin there at running back in Austin. Not how you want to be coming into your first year in the league at a very, very important position, especially when your head coach is. Listen, we've seen what offensive players and running backs especially can do in a Steve Sarkisian offense. You saw it with Bijan Robinson at Texas. You saw it with Najee Harris when he was the OC at Bama, like used in a number of ways. So that's a big, big issue there at Texas from a depth standpoint. Another team that's on the schedule, Alabama. I wouldn't say issues isn't the right word, but the secondary is very, very young, and it has shown in fall camp. Again, not necessarily that they don't have good players there, but they are very, very young. That's a team that lost 12 defensive backs to the portal this offseason. 12 or they lost 12 to the portal and or the NFL. That's a ton of talent to replace. And most of the people they have brought in are young and true freshmen or transfers that have not started before. So that is going to be very interesting in a situation where, you got to go to Tuscaloosa. And I believe you get OU and then back-to-back, right? In that 3-game stretch with Ole Miss. But some issues there for another team that's on there. And then the other thing is this. Somebody brought this up the other day, and I wish that I would have remembered who it was so I can give them credit for it, because we started talking about it for like about an hour. Off air, not anything like that. Oh, it was my co-host, Tyler Huck. We were talking about it on the Fourth and Wrong podcast that we do. And he brought up the question that I think is a very valid question. Is this the least talented Clemson team that we are going to see in maybe the last decade? I mean, think about it. I know they recruit at a high level, but it might be the least talented Clemson team we have seen in forever. This is one thing that I think that people didn't understand was going to happen at some point at Clemson. Clay Klubnik was a huge recruit. So was DJU. DJU was the number one quarterback in the country. But the natural fall off that you're going to have it happens everywhere. You've seen it at Alabama with their receivers. Right? Like you had Judy, Ruggs, Waddle, and Devonta Smith on the same roster running routes together on the same field in 2018 and 2019. That's 4 first-round picks. There's no way for that to not fall off at some point. Now, 2021, because they lost all of them by 2020, 2021, you get Jameson Williams and John Mechie, first and second-round pick, and a guy that probably should have won the Blitnikoff. Okay, but then you lose them. So now what do you have? Like you clearly have a drop-off at receiver for there. At Clemson, you've seen that drop off at receiver really badly. And then at quarterback, you've had generational talent after generational talent after generational talent at quarterback. Taj Boyd going to Deshaun Watson and then going to the 1 year of Kelly Bryant, but then Trevor Lawrence. It's impossible to replace that level of talent just like that. And they even did they did their part by recruiting the number one overall quarterback in the country, but you saw the difference in talent there. This might be the least talented Clemson team we've seen in forever. And you love to see it. You love to see it. I don't necessarily think that I'm not saying that South Carolina's roster is better than Clemson, top to bottom by any means, but I think it's going to rear its head this year for Clemson. I think it's going to happen in week 1. I think they're going to get embarrassed by Georgia. But I think it's worth noting. It is on offense, especially where they will struggle and where they have beat their heads against the wall the most under Dabo Swinney, right? Like the DJU experiment where they kept trying to make him a runner was absurd. But I've already told you what they have at quarterback versus what they've had. I already told you what they had at receiver versus what they had. You lost your running back who did everything for you. And let's be very clear, their offensive line has never been a priority under Dabo Swinney. We'll do a deep dive on it later at some point, but they don't put out offensive linemen in the pros. They don't recruit 5-star offensive linemen that do anything, and they rarely get the top offensive linemen in the country from a recruiting standpoint. The offense could struggle this year. It is going to be the least talented offense we've seen there, I think, in a decade. I really do. So that is all about the whip around and other teams from around the SEC and on South Carolina's schedule. Make sure you stay tuned. We're going to close today's show with just a little bit of a rant and raven, Marler Rant, whatever you want to call it, about fall weddings. It's been very big today on social media. I'm recording this on Wednesday, August 14th. We're going to discuss it. I'm going to tell you my view on fall weddings. You can agree or disagree. I don't care either way. But we'll be right back, so make sure you stay tuned. All right, we're going to close out today's show with a little bit of I'm going to get on a soapbox and get all worked up. Somebody tweeted this today. It went viral, and you guys have probably seen it if you're on social media at all. So I'm pulling it up right now, which I already should have had pulled up for sure. This was the tweet. It doesn't matter who it's from. His name is Red Dead Fred. It says, I cannot stand the, quote, no weddings during football season crowd anymore. Grow up. You're 26. First and foremost, let me tell you how stupid it sounds to say, grow up, you're 26. I was nowhere near grown up. I don't know if I'm grown up now at 38. But 26, no, I was not grown up. Most people aren't. Go enjoy your life. Do not be grown up. Put that off as long as you can. Peter Pan that blank. Here's the thing about fall weddings. I responded to this, and this is my response. And you guys don't have to agree. I'm just going to tell you my stance with fall weddings. I hate them. My response to this was, if you can't stand I don't want to go to a fall wedding crowd because there's football season. You know what I can't stand? I can't stand my wedding is 56% likely to end in divorce, but it's more important than your favorite thing crowd. I'm happy that you're getting married. You should book it and do whatever you want to do. It's your special day. It is your special day. Okay? That by all means, you should do. If you want to have a destination wedding, do that. I had a friend one time try to book a destination wedding and his bachelor party a month apart in Mongolia. Fun fact, I didn't know Mongolia was a real country. I thought it was a kind of beef you got at a Chinese restaurant. That's how stupid I am. But by all means, book a destination wedding. Book a fall wedding. Book a fall destination wedding. Do whatever you want. Just don't be upset if some other adult makes the decision, I'm not going to go to that. We get 13 of these Saturdays every single year. 13. If we're lucky, we get 16. If you make a run to a national championship. We wait all year for it. Now, you can do the math on that real quick. 52 weeks in a year, you get 13 of them. That's around 40 other weekends you could choose. Now, I think we all agree that an outdoor wedding in July also sucks, but I would trade that over a fall wedding and having to miss a day of college football. Because again, this is my favorite thing. I'm happy for you, But do not get upset when other people decide to live their lives like you're doing and plan their days around their favorite thing. There's no reason to be upset about it. Like I've said 1,000 times, happy for you. Go get married. Do whatever you want. Do it wherever you want. Tell me where you're registered, and I'll sit out a forced edition of the Cupid Shuffle for the 1,000th time. How about that? It's so dumb to think that just because something is, and this is true for a lot of things, guys. I'm going to get preachy here for a second. Just because something's important to you, it doesn't mean that it is or has to be important to somebody else. So get off your high horse. Go have a fall wedding, like I said, but do not get upset if someone else doesn't show up. And by the way, as somebody that has, we're not going to get into the story behind it. Somebody that's planned a wedding. I'm not married, but somebody that has planned a wedding before and been engaged. Whole other story there. It's so expensive to throw a wedding and plan a wedding. You're doing me a favor by not showing up. If you're a fringe guest list anyway, fine. Like there's some core people that have to be there. But I think, like, for me, what I wanted to make sure I did at my wedding was I want to make sure all of my best friends were going to be there. So even though it's my day, I made sure that was going to be the case. That doesn't have to be for everyone. But there's no reason for you to get mad and impose your weird will on everyone else because they have other plans and things that are important to them on fall Saturdays. Because I tell you what, you haven't been doing for the last 100 years. They haven't been going to weddings every Saturday for the last 4 years. A lot of them have been watching South Carolina football and SEC football. Now, I did have one person say this, and I'll close with this. One person did say, "This is so stupid. If you ever send me your RSVP and say I can't go to your wedding because Purdue and UCLA are playing, that's ridiculous. We don't have to be friends anymore." I agree. You shouldn't be friends with anybody that's a fan of Purdue football. That's the dumbest thing I've heard in quite some time. So if that's the case, sure. If you're planning anything around Purdue football, we got a whole new bag of issues we need to talk about. But just because something's important to you does not mean it is or has to be important to somebody else. And that's all I'll say about that. No fall weddings ever, 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 ever. Count me out. Tell me where you're registered. I'll send you a blender. See you later. All right, that was today's show. I hope you guys have a fantastic Wednesday. We'll be back tomorrow with more working internet. And I'm going to be on the road for like the next month, just traveling, doing some different things. I'm going to be down in Florida and also here in Atlanta with some just for some different reasons and all things that are good. But you will not see, so the background will be different. Please bear with me. There's not going to be a lot of South Carolina stuff in the background. So just go easy on me. But appreciate all of you. Hope you have a fantastic day. Make sure you are following along with everything on social media, Locked On SC, and then Vern Funquist CFB as well. Hope you have a good rest of, I already said that 5 times. So let's just close it out. All right, Locked On College Football. Remember that your first listen, we appreciate you making that Locked On Gamecocks. But for your second listen, go to Locked On College Football, the Locked On College Football podcast. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to Locked On College Football in the description, so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. See you all tomorrow, guys.